Thursday, January 9th, and it's another edition of the Zogby Report, Real and Unscripted. This is our first of the new year. This is the first of a new year of this podcast, which has been going on for a very long time. And it's a special day in a few ways. This is truly real and unscripted because there are so many thoughts floating around in my head. I'm going to try to air them and tie them together. But at this moment, when we're recording the podcast, there is the national service for former President Jimmy Carter, the passing of a good man, and something very moving for me personally, as I was an active Democrat in the 1970s and always a fan of President Carter as president, as well as his years as former president. What I'm seeing here, though, and I don't know how fleeting it will be, is a very rare moment of bipartisanship, not only in Washington, but throughout the country. I don't know if the passing of Jimmy Carter is a catalyst for this, or it appears to be appropriate, or it is sheer raw politics, which I'll get into. But it seems like there's a slight coming together at this moment in time, and I'm liking it. And so what is it that I'm seeing? I think first and foremost, perhaps a recognition on everybody's part that President Donald Trump won and he has a mandate. I do see that mandate today to govern as not as large as it was reported around Election Day. His victory turning out in the popular vote to be about 1.3 percentage points. However, he did win every one of the battleground states, and it was a large victory in the Electoral College. Counterbalancing that, while he won the Senate and won it decisively with a 6-vote margin, House of Representatives is troubling for the Republicans. They have a 220 to 215 slim majority. They need every vote, or they can't afford to lose one or two. And that's where I see some interesting bipartisanship arising. Well, the Republicans struggled to elect a speaker once again. They just passed an immigration bill, the Laken Riley Act, centered on a horrible tragedy that took place down south, in which a significant number of Democrats in the House supported this fundamentally Republican bill, and it looks like there'll be a substantial number of Democrats in the Senate that will support it as well. And then just this morning, I saw an interview with let's call the leader of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, certainly in the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who said that Democrats cannot afford to be just knee-jerk anti-Republican. They've got to see opportunities where there are things that Republicans support that they could possibly support and try to pass legislation, do their job. A sentiment echoed, interestingly, by Chuck Schumer, the now minority leader of the Senate. And so I'm going to get into the downside of that in a second. But, Jer, am I right in seeing that there may be, as we approach the inauguration and the first 100 days, maybe the beginnings, at least, of the antidote to what we saw the previous two administrations, early Trump after the inauguration in 2017, early Biden and after the inauguration in 2021. What do you think? Am I seeing something, or is it not there?
Well, you may very well be seeing something that I'm not seeing, but my interpretation of it, until I just heard you lay it out, my interpretation of it was I thought I was perceiving silence. I thought that there was maybe a general consensus or a mood of let's talk about it. I like you. I like to mix the anecdotal with the larger, the macro trends. So you look at the micro level. I was at a party in the new year in the neighborhood, and immediately upon walking into the party, I got into a discussion about the election results, and unfortunately that happens all too often. And the neighbor was very disappointed with the results. And I told him, I said, it's a major opportunity for the Democrats to reinvent themselves and to come back stronger and to win back the bases that they lost. And because they had a very poor performance. And his reaction was, I don't want to talk about it. He didn't want to go down that road. And I was sensing in the media that there was obviously pundits and journalists acknowledged that Trump won, and there was criticism about look at what Trump is doing, and he's gonna bring this, he's gonna onboard this person or that person. But I thought that there was more or less a sense of denial in terms of how bad they lost and what they could do and what their vision would be, and maybe they just need time. And so that was my perception. But I did see the recent news with AOC, and I don't know. What do you think about my view at the moment of how I just laid it out?
Rejection is not a policy. Ultimately, and you can call it a cliche, but these folks are elected to govern, right? They're elected to do something, whether one loves government or hates government. The American people want their government to do good things. We need our government. We have to go no further than Los Angeles and see, hey, the private sector is not going to deal with the aftermath of these fires. The private sector is not going to be building homeless shelters. And, it is government that has to function, has to work. And that means on the legislative level, we've already tried rejectionism. We've tried obstructionism. We've tried going back to the base and saying, because they're for it, we're against it. Because they're against it, we're for it. And while to a certain degree, you can argue that Americans find gridlock comforting. It means no matter what the rhetoric is, you can't go too far in the extremes. On the other hand, there are things that really need to be done. And so I hear what you're saying, I see what you're saying, and I'm understanding it. And now I think I'll pick up where I left off, and that is that even though there is this fleeting moment, I have to say that I don't think it's long lasting, because I'm trying to be very careful here. I don't think Donald Trump has it in him to stay, in a kind of bipartisan moment. I think all hell will be about to break loose when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy begin the process of making cuts or attempting to make cuts. We've talked about that one before. And then the rhetoric. I don't know, if you want to truly build a spirit of goodwill, what are we talking about Greenland for? What are we talking about the Panama Canal for? Why are we going out of our way to enrage Mexico by changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico? I mean, we can argue cynically that the president is using his moment of victory to set up a negotiating position. By being so outrageous, he brings Mexico to the table. He brings Canada to the table. He brings the world to the table. because otherwise I'll threaten you with a big stick of American trade policy and American military and so on. But why is he doing that at a moment where we have some silence here and we could be taking advantage of that silence?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I think come the transition past the inauguration, I still think we're very much in an age of black swans and gray swans. If that was the case, and we talked a lot about black swans starting in maybe the end of 2022, but definitely in 2023 and into 24, I don't think that goes away. Mm-hmm. And of course, as we speak, LA is ablaze. As you alluded to, that's going to be potentially a massive loss. But the Fed just the other day sounded the alarms on inflation, and so and of course, all kinds of things going on the international front, breakdown of relationships, more hostile relations between major players, United States and other major players, and all of these things are important. But what I'm looking to is, when is the real dam going to break? And Trump is going to be in a position, as every presidency is, because the trend is presidencies expand their powers, and they have the ability for more bold and swift action as in their hands. And I think that's going to be the defining moment of his presidency, is if something on the international front goes south, if the economy really starts to go south, how will the Trump administration react? What type of will they take bold and swift action? What type of bold and swift action will they take? And can they get enough of the Democrats on board? I think that is going to play out over the next several weeks, over the next few months, and that's going to be the defining moment.
That's a good note to end it on. Just a personal note. We're both historians, right? And we taught history for a very long time. As we speak right now and remember Jimmy Carter, it's amazing the degree to which historians rehabilitate or take different views of presidents as time passes. When Jimmy Carter left office, widely perceived to have been a near-failed president, and rehabilitated over the years by his post-presidency. But plenty of evidence showing that the rehabilitation of Jimmy Carter had already begun, with some powerful new biographies, one by Jonathan Alter that really takes a holistic view of former President Carter and says that history will judge him better as a president. And by that, we mean the first president to pay attention to a conservation of energy, alternative energy sources, expansion of the Environmental Protection Agency, the creation of FEMA, many urban and economic development grants that were necessary in the 1970s, and of course the peace effort between Israel and Egypt. And so perhaps next week what we can do is take a look at what we think the judgment will be, many years into the future on Joe Biden and his presidency, possibly even Donald Trump as well. Have a good week, okay?
Yeah, you too.